Now we move on to what I think was the most shocking pair of transactions so far in the offseason. Yesterday, I saw first that Myles Turner signed a 4-year, $107 million contract with the Milwaukee Bucks. I did not see that one coming. I thought the Pacers were going to pony up and pay into the luxury tax for the first time in forever to retain Myles Turner. But I am sure the Tyrese Halliburton injury changes things, and I'll talk about the Pacers side of it later because I do want to focus most of this video on the Milwaukee Bucks and why I find a few of their transactions to be interesting. But I want to talk about the on-court stuff before I talk about why I didn't like the move just for the team and organization-wise going forward. But come to find out, a few minutes later, the Bucks waived Damian Lillard. And that was shocking for a few reasons. One, Damian Lillard, top 75 player of all time, Hall of Fame point guard. Did not expect him to get waived. Not only that, the Bucks are going to have to pay Dame $22 million a year through the 2029-2030 year, which doesn't even sound fucking real, but we are halfway there anyway. But basically, the Bucks are going to be paying Dame for 2 more seasons after Giannis's contract is up in 2028-29. That's wild. But the wave happened so the Bucks could essentially make room to sign Myles Turner. And then they made a few other transactions like selling off some second-round picks to get off Pat Connaughton's contract, to bring in Vasily Micic, and a few other moves. And just basketball-wise first, I want to talk about this for the Bucks because that can get lost in it as much as I don't like the series of moves the Bucks have made. And I've been trying really hard to just hold off on any, the Bucks should trade Giannis, the Bucks should trade Giannis. But I talked about the Bucks a few months ago and how I felt like they were kind of just running out of things to do. And whenever the Giannis rumors really pick up, like after the bubble year, in the offseason of 2020 or whatever, the Bucks wasted no time. They got Drew Holiday in the building. They got rid of Eric Bledsoe. And then in summer of 2023, it really started heating up again, and the Bucks made another move and tried to get Damian Lillard, and we all loved that trade at the time, including myself. This year, 2025, I wouldn't say the rumors reached a fever pitch, but it really felt like there was part of the media that just wanted it to happen, so they were speaking it into existence. Plus, with the way the Bucks' assets look and the contracts and the age of the team and stuff like that, you could come to the logical conclusion that, okay, Giannis at this point is 30. They've won 1 playoff series since they won the 2021 title. You could reasonably expect that maybe Giannis is looking elsewhere, especially being 30. You're at not a different point in your career, but you're definitely not smack dab in the middle of your prime at 28, 27. So you could be looking at a few things. But the Bucks still, they're swinging. They're trying to build a team around Giannis. The East is weak this year, especially now that Tyrese Halliburton is hurt and now they have Myles Turner out of the building in Milwaukee. You don't really know what's going on with Philadelphia. The Cavaliers, I'm sorry, but no one's going to take the Cavs seriously until they prove it in the playoffs. And then really the Orlando Magic and the Hawks, they probably think they have a shot at a top 4 seed in the East, which is a pretty legitimate thought to have. Can't forget the Knicks, who just hired a new coach. And so the Bucks, it seems like they were just pulling all the levers they could all at once to build a team around Giannis. And basketball-wise, let me just say, I like the Myles Turner signing, actually, and I know he didn't play well in the finals play well in the finals offensively, but defensively, I thought he was really fantastic, especially against Chet Holmgren. When it was switches, it was a little bit dicier. SGA cooked Myles Turner whenever Turner would switch out on the perimeter, and to be fair to everyone, SGA would cook anybody. But just speaking basketball-wise first, Myles Turner is just a clear upgrade over Brook Lopez, especially the version of Brook Lopez we saw last year. Part of the reason the Bucks defense has been so good over the Giannis era is because Brook Lopez has flat out turned into one of the best rim protectors in the NBA and has allowed Giannis to do what he's special at on the defensive end, which is being that free safety, roaming, helping, using his length to cheat off the weak side, while Brook Lopez has been a rim deterrent. Brook Lopez has been declining, especially this past year on that end. And when Brook Lopez is slower on defense, not as much of a deterrent at the rim as he once was early in his career in Milwaukee, then the infrastructure falls apart, especially when Damian Lillard's your point of attack defender, Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., you're relying on them to be your best wing defenders. Kyle Kuzma comes in after the trade deadline and helps on the defensive end, but my God, you do not want to see him, operating with the ball in his hands offensively, and, you basically cover your eyes when he shoots a three and you hope he makes it. But with Brook Lopez not being the same, a lot more responsibility also falls on Giannis. He ends up having to cover the perimeter more, which is one of the weaker parts of his defensive game. Not saying he's bad at it, but that's always been one of the weaker parts of his defensive game. And then all your leaky defenders, it just exacerbates the issue. Myles Turner is a clear upgrade. He's more mobile, he's younger, he provides the same shooting from three, although Brook Lopez has been really good at shooting it from really far. Myles Turner still provides basically around the same number of attempts, but also with the really good rim protection. And last year, he took a career-high 5.5 threes a game. And I just think defensively, him and Giannis are going to work so well off of each other. Maybe in some ways even better because Myles Turner is more mobile, although I'm not going to sit here and say he can switch 1 through 5. But he'll survive out there more, and the foot speed with Myles Turner is just on a different level compared to Brook Lopez. But I just really don't like that they stretched Damian Lillard just to get Myles Turner, who, while I think on the court is an upgrade, I just don't like that you signed him to a 4-year deal. And I like Myles Turner as a player, but stretching Damian Lillard just so you could get Myles Turner on your team, who, there could be a chance he could also be played off the floor in a playoff series if he stinks it up on offense. And then, maybe there's a few series where he's worse than expected defensively. I would have rather just taken my medicine and take the 2 years of Damian Lillard and, be clean after that. But you have to appease to Giannis, obviously. You have to build a contender around him. And I think basketball-wise, I think people are underestimating. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm picking the Bucks to win the championship because I don't think they are. I still don't like their roster coming out of the Indiana series. And aside from, getting Myles Turner, maybe getting a competent point guard in Vasily Micic, although he's not really going to be playing heavy minutes. And then it's the Doc Rivers factor where it'll take him until the very last game of a playoff series, like in the Pacers series, where he finds the correct lineup, and he should play his younger guys more, like AJ Green, Andre Jackson Jr. So there's still the Doc Rivers factor with me that I just do not like. I kind of see the vision for this Bucks team winning a lot more regular season games than expected next year. And that's because with bringing back Bobby Portis, which, he's probably going to play some more 5 than normal because it kind of just fits the archetype of what you would want next to Giannis. You bring back Kevin Porter Jr., you bring back Gary Trent Jr., Garry Harris, I thought was a nice little move on the margins. For some reason, I still have some faith in Garry Harris because he's still a good defender when he plays. It's just that 3-point shot, that's a little dicey for me. Taurean Prince can still shoot the hell out of the ball, but you don't want him as a 3. And then as a 4, he's a little bit older. Jericho Sims, you can keep some athleticism at the backup 5. So the Bucks do have at least a versatile set of centers that they can play off of Giannis, and then Giannis can play the small ball 5. But that is a lot of shooting and some ball handling around Giannis. And I think what they are going to do is that they are going to lean in to Point Giannis more often. Because Doc Rivers started leaning into Point Giannis towards the end of the year, and this was a little bit before Damian Lillard first went out with the blood clot in his calf. But when Damian Lillard went out with the blood clot, Giannis was fucking spectacular. If you just want to stretch it back to his stats since March 1st, Giannis averaged 29 points a game, 8 assists, and 11 rebounds, with his usual high level of absurd efficiency at 59%, 60% on twos. Of course, Giannis, as we all know, had a career year shooting the ball from the mid-range last year. But when Damian Lillard started missing games with the blood clot, Giannis averaged 31.2 points per game, nearly 9 assists per game, over 11 rebounds, and 61% shooting from the field, 63%, nearly 64% on two-pointers. And this roster, with no real reliable point guard, maybe Ryan Hollins takes a little bit of a jump, but with no real point guard like a Damian Lillard or a Jrue Holiday on the roster, you have shooters in Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince, Garry Harris maybe, Myles Turner, Bobby Portis, AJ Green, athletes like Andre Jackson Jr., a little wild card in Kevin Porter Jr. This roster is now tailor-made for Giannis to fully assume the point guard duties, and that is going to make for some incredible basketball. I don't know if that's going to be sustainable, especially going into the playoffs, but in a weak East, you can definitely stack up 50 wins with just going with Giannis ball. And basketball-wise, the Bucks may be a sneaky League Pass team, just in terms of if I were to do League Pass rankings, because Giannis would just be going off all the time. And there might be a chance where the Bucks just rain hell from three because Giannis is going to be collapsing the defense all the time. But just future-wise, asset-wise, I just don't like what they did to get Myles Turner and having to stretch Damian Lillard. If I were the Bucks, I would have just bitten the bullet and, dangled Giannis for maybe Houston or San Antonio, just me personally speaking. But I also don't blame the Bucks for not wanting to trade Giannis. This is the top 25-ish, being conservative, player of all time. So of course you want to still make it work. And if Giannis didn't specifically request for a trade, then you don't have to trade him. But if you're just talking about roster building wise in the future, I don't really like the series of moves they made. Basketball wise, if you're just talking about next year, I'm not really sure if the Bucks will come out of the East, but they do have something there, and they did upgrade nominally. But long term, I just don't know.